Hey friends, I've been wanting to record this video for a little while. I was wondering if that title would catch anybody's interest. How to get out of jury duty. Here's the thing about jury duty. I was called last week, and I have never before made it past like where you just sit in the room for half the day and then you get released. But I knew this time that I was going to be selected. And I'm just starting a new business school. I have a lot on my plate, and my ego wanted to tell me about all of the things that were more important and that I should be doing with my time. And yet I felt this like importance of being available to this experience. And so I've been in the practice of turning over the stuff that feels scary or that I want to control to spirit and my divine team. And so with this, I was like, all right, like put me where I will be best of use. You know, spirit, all that I'm up to, like what my family's moving through, what I'm working on with my company, my membership program, like my home, all of this. And also, I like to think of myself as a fairly impartial, honest person who sees the big picture and would therefore make a good juror. And so I left up spirit. Sure enough, I got called up to the courtroom. I was in the jury box for the jury selection, and they asked us so many intriguing questions about in a hypothetical situation that I imagine was close to what actually happened to this kid who is on trial. How would you react? Like, what do you think is reasonable when it comes to defending yourself? Like, does somebody have to touch you before you can defend yourself? Do they have to just threaten to cause harm? Do they need to like actually be moving towards you for you to feel like you are allowed to defend yourself, like morally, legally? And so we were answering all these questions. They asked also about how do you know if a person is telling the truth? Like if a person is on the witness stand, how do you know that they're telling the truth? And why are some reasons that you would think that they were not telling the truth? And they asked about police officers. Like, would you give, they actually didn't say this, but say it this way, but would you give a police officer the benefit of the doubt? Or would you think of them as being more trustworthy if they were to take the stand? And so these were questions asked first, a lot of questions asked by the judge to ascertain our background, our interests, our hobbies, our lines of work, if we're connected to the legal system in any way, if there's any way that we would have bias that would have us be prejudiced toward the defendant. I loved so much that they made sure to know that the burden of proof was on the district attorneys to actually have the jury believe fully that this kid was guilty of what they were charging him with. And if we were even remotely unsure, then we would consider him not guilty. And that was we were reminded of that over and over and over again. And they asked several people point blank, like, do you feel like given this part of your life or this part of your background, you would be able to be fair and unbiased in this situation if there was not if there was a shadow of a doubt that they were innocent. So it was like I got to see firsthand our court system in action, and I loved everything that I experienced in there. And I also felt like it was my place to speak up a couple times. So when they asked what I do for work, I said I'm an energy healer and life coach. My hobbies are geeking out about modern day spirituality and epic love stories like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, things like that, where it looks pretty rocky but good triumphs over evil. And I have this podcast called Unbecoming Karen that I work on with some of my dear white women healer friends, and it's all about healing our internalized white supremacy. So I was like very open about how I am doing my best to become informed about the way that I have been causing harm because of my unconscious beliefs, and how I move through the world. And so when they were asking about police officers, they said, um, you know, like, would you be likely to just trust someone because they're a police officer? Uh-oh, getting the notification that my device is too warm. I don't want to shut down on you. So I said, I very much believe that police can be credible witnesses, and honest and great resources because they're trained to see all sorts of things that the normal person would not perceive in an intense situation. However, I also have learned that lots of times police officers have unconscious bias, and I don't know if they would be trained for that. And so that would have me question the credibility of a police officer because I can see that the defendant is, so what's called the person who is on trial. I'm not a legally trained person by any means. I can see that he is a young person of color, and so I don't know if that would like skew their belief system or how they would perceive him at all. I do know that if I were a person, like a young, he was like, maybe late teens, early 20s. If I were a young person and a young person of color who had my life on the line here, right? That I would possibly present as being very nervous, and all of the ways that somebody would, like all of us agreed, are ways that if somebody's being honest, right? Like they make eye contact, they're confident when they're speaking, their voice is steady, they're not sweating. I don't think I would exhibit those qualities, even if I were innocent, if I were in a court of law, and knowing how our court systems, knowing that there is a disproportionate amount of people of color in our prison system, that are incarcerated, and so the deck is kind of perhaps stacked against him. I would be a little bit nervous about that if I were him, and so I might present as less steady than, say, a police officer. And so there are various comments like this that came out of my mouth. And when it was time for the DA and the defendant's lawyer to choose who they wanted, they each got to release 6 jurors, 3 jurors, 6 total. And I was the last one that the DA let go. I believe because I was very attuned to and speaking truth to the kinks that are in our legal system. And it seemed like I was maybe a bit of a wild card. And so I bring this story up both to say I'm proud of our court experience here in Colorado. I think the judge did amazingly. I really liked all the people who were there. It didn't seem like an incredibly serious trial. It seemed more like a misdemeanor. And I wish that I knew how they ruled, because I locked eyes with this kid a couple times and just gave him a big smile, or like an earnest smile, because I wanted him to know that somebody saw him as a person. He wasn't just like another criminal that was there. Like everybody who is there because society has failed them to some degree, right? At some point in their lives, like could be any one of us had we had a slightly different upbringing. And I had to just turn it over to spirit and be like, I wish I could participate in the rest of this and know what happens with this kid and know what actually did happen, because they didn't give us all the facts. It sounds like this kid was in an intense situation and angry with somebody, maybe a perfect stranger, and that he or they defended themselves. He defended himself, or was calling it defense, and the other side thought it was potential assault, and so um, with a way that like was not life threatening. I wish I knew what came of this, and I was really sad when I got let go. And I also was kind of chuckling to myself at the irony that like I I want to be an advocate for people. I want to be an advocate for a new way of seeing the system, perceiving the system, of the system treating people, and I wanted to participate and just see how that all played out. But it was my vocalness about all of this that had me, I think, my sense is that that's what got me booted. So, um, if you get called, I encourage you to stick with it and to maybe ask your divine team, like, is there something in this for me, and how can I contribute? Because I know that just by me being there and being outspoken about some of these things, I maybe opened up some perceptions that weren't there before. Um, and I tried to just go and be the light. Like, how how can we walk into any place and bring presence and commitment to one another and connection and interest? I don't always do this well. Sometimes I really suck at it because I'm stuck in my own like ego version, story, trauma, all of the things that keep me nervous or self-conscious. And I was self-conscious as I was speaking all these things, but I also know what I've learned to be true statistically when it comes to um, our our judicial systems here. And so it was a fascinating experience, and I encourage you to just, if you get called, go and see what is there for you. Like, how can you contribute, even if you are only there for 2 hours? Jury duty has like such a bad rap, right? But it ended up being such a lovely experience, and I was so grateful that I got to be that little part of it, even though I will forever be curious what happened. So there's my jury duty story. So apparently, if you want to get out, you just talk about how our system is broken. But I don't encourage you to do that unless you really believe it and are doing the work to like further equality and equity in our systems. So there's my jury duty story. I would love to know what you thought. If you've had jury duty experiences and they've been delightful or horrific, or excuse me, whatever your experience, yeah, share with me. I'd love to hear how it went for you too.